Going on, guys? Welcome, Rabid here. And a few days ago we did take a look at this BitAxe Gamma 601 from Power Mining, and recently, actually just right now at the time of recording this, just showed up. Bitcoin merch sent over the new Mac Daddy King, the NerdQaxe++, and not only is it the new version, this thing is also liquid cooled. Look at that. So we're going to pull this thing out, take a look at it, check out some power consumptions. I'm pretty excited. All right, so I'm just going to pull this thing out of the box here. Let's just take a look. Oh yeah, wow, this thing is a lot bigger than what I was expecting. I do believe this has 4 S21 Pro chips on it. So that's what powers this thing in hash rate is 4 S21 Bitmain Pro chips. That's pretty insane. And we got liquid cooling action happening here. All right, so in the box, we do have the power supply here, the brick, as well as the power cable. Standard C13 plugs into here, and this will plug into your BitAxe. This is the screen. We're going to have to actually install this ourselves. It's going to go right here. And then, you know, you got the NerdQaxe book here, NerdQaxe book and everything going on with that. So first things first, let's set this thing up by installing our screen, which is in this compartment here. All right, so I do have the screen out, and it can only go one way. If we look into our BitAxe here, we can see we're pretty close here. So if I decide to put it in this way, it's not going to fit. So we actually have to put it in this way with the small space there going like this. So we're just going to plug that in like so. All right, so I do have the screen on now, and this thing looks pretty sweet here. I'm not sure if there's any RGBs or anything going on with it yet until we plug it in, but let's just kind of look at this. So which way does this got to go? I'm assuming you can't just leave it propped down like this because you're obviously covering the rad, which we need airflow to keep this thing cool. So we're probably going to have to sit it like this is how I am guessing this thing does sit. Now in theory, depending on which way the cables go, you usually want these on the bottom. So this should almost be flipped or kind of sitting like this. And then you'd also want this kind of flipped around to be on the bottom as well. You don't really want anything on the top, but I'm guessing this is the way it's designed right now. And again, you know, I think this should probably be flipped so it's 90 degrees down here, and then this should be flipped. I could probably just re-screw it in, put it this way. But I'm imagining it's going to work as is, you know, depending on your intake and outtake and which way the cables and everything are actually going. But optimal, you know, it could be tweaked a little bit, and I think I could probably just do that myself here, obviously. But we'll have to see how all the screens and everything do look once I plug this thing in. All right, so I got everything, I think, ready to go. The screen is on. We got our power supply and everything plugged in. I got it in the watt meter there so we can test it out. Now, one thing I do want to point out here is, yeah, it's liquid cooled. It's going to look cool and everything. I don't think liquid cooled is necessary when it comes to crypto mining and things like that. Liquid cooled is more designed when it comes to gaming and stuff where you're getting a bunch of high voltages really fast, and water obviously carries those voltages and the heat really, really easily. It doesn't carry the voltages, well, it can, but it carries the heat away from the processor much faster to keep it cool. So it's done for gaming and, you know, quick voltage spike situations where mining, you're usually staying around the same thing all the time. So you're probably better off with just an air cooler anyway. We'll see what happens here. But the other thing here, also keep in mind, is because now you have a pump and other things, you may be using more power. So that's how we're going to check out the efficiency here. Yes, we're using more efficient chips than say the Gamma and stuff right here, but this is only using about a little over 24 watts for 1 to 1.1 terahash, where we're going to compare that versus this is supposed to be a little over 4 terahash, but it should be at 100 watts or less to be more efficient. But I do think this liquid cooling might bring it into being a little less efficient, but it's still not going to use much power, and it's still going to look pretty awesome. Now, if you're looking for one of these, obviously check that description for some links to Bitcoin merch. All right, so I just plugged it in, and oh my gosh, this thing looks freaking awesome. Here you can see, you know, it's kind of got reflections and stuff, but we got the screen has pretty wicked coloring and stuff, and it is right, so it must know your orientation. It flips on its own. Obviously, the cooler could use some tweaking, like it looks like it should be tilted down to that part where I was saying earlier. Should we have the fans down, then we should be lined up because it is kind of sideways there. But things are looking pretty sweet. And the fan is RGB as well. So that is freaking awesome. So I'm going to have to set this up. In order to do so, we're going to have to log in through our phone, get the IP, and let's connect this to our home network. All right, so I did connect this through my phone. It wasn't popping up like it's supposed to based in the book, but if you need the default IP, it is 192.168.4.1, just like the BitX Gamma. We'll continue on with the setup after a quick word from today's sponsor. Are you tired of your mining pool taking 2 to 4% fees while giving half-baked tools? I switched to EMCD, and here's why. With just 1.5% base fee, one of the lowest in Bitcoin mining pools, real human support 24/7, takes about 5 minutes or less to reply. They did fix most issues from 8 to the 15-minute mark, and an all-in-one payment system all the way from automatic payouts, 8% auto staking, and 0 extra steps needed. Merge mining on the side as well, so you're not only mining Bitcoin, you are mining other coins as well and getting paid in Bitcoin. EMCD maximizes your terahash for maximum profit, making things nice and easy with all the merge mineable coins. Also, promo code RABID, link in the description, will also grant you a 0.5% off at only 1% pool fees for the first month for first users. So be sure to smash that link, as well as custom deals for farms larger than 5+ petahash. Give EMCD a shot today and let me know how you like them down in the comment section so other people can see as well. All right, so I did get everything up and running here. Everything is looking pretty sweet. One thing I want to point out is I can't seem, once I get it on my Wi-Fi, to log back into it. So I actually have to reset it, because at first all I did is put it on my Wi-Fi, and then I went around and actually wanted to set my pool and stuff, and it wouldn't let me. And I couldn't find any information on how to reset this, but I did finally get it figured out. So in order to reset this miner, if that's something you want to do with the NerdQaxe or NerdQaxe++, is unplug it, and you can see the top right button right here. Hold it down and plug it in. Now, I don't know what the sequence is. I also quit that, and then once I plugged it in, I let go and I pushed it down and held it again for 5 seconds. Then I stopped and I held it again. So I kept doing that over and over, and it did reset. So once I did reset it, then I put in all the parameters at once. I can see this on my local network. I just can't seem to log into it. And on the top, you can see the IP that it is on. But anyway, it is up and running now. You can also hit these buttons here and it'll switch over to different, I guess, screens. So you can see the screen we're on now. And then if we hit it, we got this screen right here, which gives us some different information. This is all about your pool and your hash rate and everything. Over here, we have to wait a second. It's your price and your temperatures and all that. So there we go. We can see the Bitcoin price and everything. And then this is like your mining thing. It doesn't give you your hash rate, but it tells you how far along to the next halving you are, the network difficulties, and all sorts of the information that's going on there. We're at 1 zettahash on the Bitcoin network. That is insane. 129 trillion is our difficulty, which means we need to find a share that's about 129 trillion in difficulty in order to find that block. So that's pretty insane. And then we're coming back into the default one right here. It's going to take a while to ramp up. We're currently at 2.4 gigahash. I think 10 to 12 minutes we should be pushing 4 gigahash. We'll see what happens when the time comes. All right, guys, so it has been running for about, what is that there? About 17 minutes, and I think we reached our hash rate. So it did slowly creep up from 500 gigahash all the way up there. And I do think I said gigahash earlier, but we are in the terahashes now here, obviously. But right now we can see we are about 5.4 terahash. It has been bouncing around from 5.2 to 5.5 at about 103 watts. So let's just take a look at our power here. If you guys can kind of see right there, we can see 103 watts. I'll kind of turn it upside down so you guys can see here. Right there, 103. So we're doing about 103 watts at about 5.2 to 5.5 gigahash. That's pretty good. With liquid cooling, see how this thing is around, I guess, 1.1 to 1.2 gigahash at 24 watts. So even with liquid cooling, this thing is doing pretty good. And it also has pretty sweet looking. Like, it has way better displays, a lot more RGB colors. You know, it'd be pretty awesome if we could hit a block. Remember, the chances of finding a Bitcoin block is next to 0. But you can also try and put this on Bitcoin Cash in any SHA-256 coin. It doesn't have to be Bitcoin, but obviously we know the lottery is in Bitcoin. All right, so we're pretty much going to wrap up this video, but I do want to point out I let this run overnight, and now we're going to see everything is still looking pretty steady and constant. If you are looking for this miner, any other miners, again, links in the description to Bitcoin merch. But coming in by shutting off the light here so it doesn't mess everything up, we can still see about 103 watts. I'll flip it over so you guys can kind of see a little better. There we go, 103, kinda. You know, I know it's kind of messed up here. Turning my light, actually I don't want it on. Taking a look at some average hash rates here. If I can get this thing to focus correctly, we can see about 4.98 terahash on the 1 hour. It doesn't have a 12 hour, only a 24, so that's only saying like 2 point something, as we can see right there. But yeah, for the 1 hour, we're at 4.98 terahash average versus the gamma at 1.09. So we're almost 5 times the hash rate at about 4 times the power. So this is actually quite a bit more efficient than running, you know, the gammas here. So that's actually pretty sweet, as well as this thing is looking pretty sweet with the liquid cooled, the nice new NerdQaxe screen thing. That's a pretty sweet screen. So there's a lot of wicked features going on to here, but remember guys, if you are trying to find that block, the odds of hitting it is next to 0. Actually, I can show you the odds right now. If I bring up the app again, here we can see the odds of actually finding a block. So in 1 day, you're less than 0.001%. A week is less than 0.001%. A month is 0.003%. And you have about a 0.034% per year. So very, 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 very low odds of hitting that block, but you know, the chances are still there. You miss 100% of the chances you don't take. Now, just want to keep in mind, most likely you will not find it, but if you get extremely lucky, anything is possible. So things are pretty crazy. I'm sure you know everything with these little solo Bitcoin miners. Not much hash rate, but they also don't use much power, and they're not going to destroy your power bill like a big miner would. So thank you for watching this video, guys. I will see you on the next one. Let me know what you think about this thing down in the comments section. Hit that subscribe button, share the video around. I'll see you on the next one. Rabid out.